Hello everyone, welcome to the Legacy of the Monsterverse reviews, and today we'll be taking a look at what is considered the epic installment to the Monsterverse, Godzilla, King of the Monsters. The plot of Godzilla King of the Monsters is that we follow these group of terrorists that want to prove their point that we humans are destroying the planet, and so they let loose all these monsters such as Rodan and King Ghidorah to destroy humanity. However, it's up to Monarch to hopefully try to sort out things by relying on the King of the Monsters to destroy all the monsters, being Godzilla. And that's pretty much all to Godzilla King of the Monsters. So what do I think of this sequel to Gareth Edwards' Godzilla from 2014? Well, if you want to call it a sequel, but yeah. Anyway, to be honest, I really enjoy Godzilla King of the Monsters. In my opinion, Godzilla King of the Monsters really reminds me of a modern day Toho movie with special effects. All the classic characters are brought to life. Yes, Rodan, Mothra, and King Ghidorah. And they are epic in this movie. So is Godzilla as well. He is badass in this movie compared to 2014. I really enjoyed this Godzilla and these monsters on screen. It really reminds me of an old Toho movie brought back to the big screen, this time in an American modern day fashion with CGI special effects. And man, this is such a fun movie and a good time. Godzilla King of the Monsters doesn't disappoint you if you're a huge fan of the Godzilla films, and if you are a huge fan of the Toho films, you might also like this one as well out of all the other Monsterverse films, because this does remind you a lot of a Toho Godzilla film, this time with an American version. But anyway, let's go through the history of Godzilla King of the Monsters, and then my opinions about it. So after Godzilla in 2014, I guess it was kind of clear that we were going to get a sequel to Godzilla 2014, and we'll grow the Monsterverse as well. However, director of Godzilla 2014, Gareth Edwards, didn't really want to make a sequel as he thinks that the Godzilla would be its standalone movie, well, his Godzilla standalone film. But anyway, Godzilla 2014 did do well, however some people did kind of complain about the film, such as Godzilla not being on screen half the time instead on the TV screen, and also Bryan Cranston's death earlier on in the film. But still though, the 2014 Godzilla movie still got critical praise, and so most Godzilla fans really loved the film. However, Gareth Edwards wasn't really challenged to make the sequel, so he ended up opting out. And so Legendary just decided, well, let's make Godzilla 2, this time without Gareth Edwards. Godzilla 2 would be announced after Godzilla 2014's box office success and run in theaters. Then on July 26, 2014, Legendary first announced on the Twitter page that yes, in the next Godzilla movie, Godzilla 2, we'll have Toho Kaijus. Yes, the classic Toho monsters from the original Godzilla films will make a return in future movies. And so they went out and confirmed that both Rodan and Mothra, as well as King Ghidorah, will make an appearance in the next Monsterverse film in the series back in 2014. Obviously, a lot of Godzilla fans were really shocked about the monsters from the Toho movies getting a return, this time in the American movies. This time, Legendary announced Michael Dougherty to be signed off as director for Godzilla 2. Then posters and other things started to show up for Godzilla King of the Monsters to tease of what would come at Comic-Con. Then trailers and teaser trailers were released in 2018 all the way to 2019 for Godzilla King of the Monsters with a planned release date of May 2019. Then finally, Godzilla King of the Monsters released on May 31st, 2019, and it'll make $387 million at the box office, making it the first movie in the Monsterverse to underperform terribly, with the budget of the movie being $170 to $200 million. Now, I'm guessing this was because of Endgame and some other movies that were coming out at the time. I think it was released kind of terribly, as it released pretty much after the big blockbuster movies were released, such as Avengers Endgame, which is what made Godzilla King of the Monsters perform terribly. But also, critics weren't also liking this new movie as well. They bashed on the characters and also the dialogue, saying that it was MCU humor pretty much. And yep, I honestly do kind of agree that I do feel like this is the entry where it gets a bit MCU with the characters and the humor. But, I mean, come on, why would you bash the film? Also, this movie had the lowest points on Rotten Tomatoes out of the Monsterverse, making a 42% on Rotten Tomatoes. So, Godzilla's King of the Monsters didn't look like a huge success, and a bit of a bomb. However, let's go dive into Godzilla King of the Monsters by taking a look at the characters. Now it's time to talk about the human characters, and to be honest, I'm kind of mixed on the human characters in this installment. While there are some good characters, there are some that are, a bit bland and also more of comic relief characters in this movie, which is what starts the MCU kind of like humor to the Monsterverse. Especially the good guys, which are Monarch, are mostly jokey sort of characters, whilst the terrorists aren't, which is kind of hilarious, but still though. Anyway, let's dive into the characters. So the main character we follow is Madison Russell, played by Millie Bobby Brown, which is really good in this movie in my opinion. I think this is her best performance pretty much out of anything she has done, pretty much. I mean, I would say Stranger Things as well as 11, but here, she just goes across as just being a normal teenager. I would say the only biggest problem with her is that she screams a lot in the film, but it's not really like not too much of a big criticism because she does scream at appropriate times where she's supposed to be screaming, so it's not really a criticism. But anyway, I thought her character was still pretty good in the film anyway. And then we have Emma Russell, played by Vera Farmiga, which, I mean, to be honest, her character I am a bit mixed on. She pretty much has when the terrorists enter the picture, she pretty much joins them except for Monarch, and she pretty much is the one responsible for freeing all the monsters, pretty much killing millions of lives, so you can blame that all on her. But then after she leaves the terrorists, which pretty much happens out of nowhere, after that then she joins Monarch. But what really makes things all confusing is that she had a son that died in the 2014 attack, killing her son in the process. And then after that, she's just like, yep, let's give the monsters a chance just because my son's dead. And us humans are destroying our planet and our ecosystem, so yep, let's just free all the monsters. Like, her character was just, a bit, confusing and stuff. And I didn't really like that, her character in the film. I still think the actress does do well though in the part though still. And then we have Mark Russell, played by Carl Chandler, which if you didn't know also played Bruce Baxter in King Kong 2005, and now he's in a Godzilla movie. And I do feel like he's really good in the movie as well. He pretty much plays a scientist that joins Monarch to stop Emma and the terrorist group for leading the Titans free, and also he's also out to save his daughter Madison. However, one scene I wish was in the film, this is a deleted scene, is where Mark has a flashback of Andrew, his son, on his birthday before the events of the 2014 attack. And I did mention this scene in the video before, but I wish this was kept into the movie. But that's pretty much his character, and I do feel like the scene could have been in the film to improve his character a bit better, but that's just in my own opinion. But then we have Alan Jonah, played by Charles Dance, which in my opinion, he's probably the best character in the film. Charles has a good performance here. I think what really makes me wonder is when we're going to see him again into the Monsterverse, which after this movie, he has never made any appearance in any Monsterverse material from what I can tell, especially in the films. I think he might have appeared in a comic or two, I'm not really too sure. I don't really read the Monsterverse comics, so I'm not really too sure. But I do want to see this guy appear in another future Monsterverse film. Who knows? He might appear in Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire, but so far I don't think he will appear in it. But let's hope for the future of the Monsterverse he returns. But then we also have Ken Watanabe making a return as Dr. Serizawa, and he's obviously good. He's definitely a lot better in this movie as he has more connections to Godzilla. And he also touches Godzilla in one scene where he sacrifices his life to make Godzilla more powerful, and with the oxygen destroyer, which is a really touching moment and quite a sad moment as he says goodbye, old friend. I don't know why he went down there. They could have probably dropped the oxygen destroyer down there to wake up Godzilla without Serizawa sacrificing his life, so it kind of wasted his character a bit there. But I mean, still satisfying into Dr. Serizawa. Sally Hawkins again makes a return as Vivine Graham, however, she doesn't really make it too far. And then we have the rest of the cast in the film, which are mostly the comic relief characters and, military people, the people that work for Monarch, which they're all fine, they're all, there. So yeah, let's just dive into the King of the Monsters himself. The King of the Monsters himself has now a new updated look. Well, a bit of an updated look. He still looks the same as the 2014 design, however with some slight differences. One being, of course, the dorsal plates being much more bigger and a lot more reminiscent of the classic Godzilla dorsal plates, which look fantastic, and is probably the definitive legendary Godzilla design in my own opinion. Also, His head is also smaller than what his head was in 2014 and a lot less wider than 2014 as well. Also, the colors kind of look different. Godzilla 2014 has this dark charcoal, darkish black, whilst Godzilla 2019 looks to kind of have the same skin. However, this time there's a bit of blue as well added to him, a bit more blue. It's kind of hard to see because most of Godzilla's scenes are mostly in darkish places, but still though not that dark. But anyway, that's, in my opinion, Godzilla's new design is awesome. He also has a new thermo design, which looks amazing as well, where he turns at the end of the film into Burning Godzilla, where he just looks like a Godzilla that came straight from hell. But in order for Godzilla to be the king, he needs to face against some enemies. There are so many titans in King of the Monsters that I'll just mention them, but whilst the main ones I'll talk more about. And the first one is the main villain himself, yes, the three-headed monster. Monster Zero, also known as King Ghidorah, is back ever since 2004's Godzilla Final Wars, or maybe if you don't want to count Kaiser Ghidorah, maybe then it's more, GMK from 2001. Back into the Monsterverse this time around. And I think, and if we can all agree, is that this is the best Ghidorah that we have seen on screen. Well, I guess if you're all the Showa and Heisei fans can probably say their Ghidorah is the best. Still though, King of the Monsters Ghidorah is a lot more villainous and a lot more evil compared to all Ghidorahs. I mean, this guy is literally badass in the movie, and he also has no problem in killing you. Like, this Ghidorah is probably one you do not want to mess with, especially with him having the ability to free all the monsters with a call. I also like the design. I like how huge his wings are. They're just massive, and I like how he's more serpent snake-like as well, his design. Ghidorah is one of the most toughest enemies for Godzilla to face, and he's extremely tough to fight in here. Like, this guy really wrecks Godzilla in a whole bunch of scenes and even kills him in one of the scenes in the movie. Really, Ghidorah is one of the best monsters in the Monsterverse on screen and one of the best villains in my own opinion. Then next up we have Rodan, the Fire Demon. And while it's not really a definitive Rodan design in my opinion, I still really love this Rodan and this design as well, with his updated new look to the Monsterverse. He also more looks like an eagle actually, more than a pterodactyl. Or a vulture as well. He really looks like just a giant bird, not really a pterodactyl, which is something I find really unique about this Rodan compared to all the other Rodans. I even like how he has a bit of like fire on his huge rings as well. I really like the scene where Rodan gets woken up and destroys a lot of the airplanes. I really want a solo Rodan movie. When will we get a solo Rodan movie? Like, when will that happen? But Rodan in here has a bit of a personality. This time, Rodan really is kind of a coward here. Like, to be honest, in one of the scenes, he fights against Ghidorah and he ends up getting defeated, which leads to him joining Ghidorah. But then when the Ghidorah gets defeated and he tries to attack Godzilla, then he pretty much bows down to Godzilla because he's the king. So Rodan has really a bit of personality to him. But Rodan isn't the only one, because the other flying creature we also have, a flying monster, is Mothra herself. Yes, Mothra makes a return, first in larva form in the start of the film, and then finally in her final form, in her butterfly. And to be honest, Mothra, I know lots of people bash on this design for some odd reason. Even I do agree it's not the most good looking design out of the film. At least Mothra looks different compared to all the other versions of Mothra in the past, but I still really like the design here. I still think it looks like Mothra. I know there were a lot of people on the internet that were crying out that it didn't really look a lot like Mothra, but I mean, it's a butterfly. It looks a lot like Mothra. So yeah, I don't know what these people are talking about. But Mothra is the only good monster here, as well as Godzilla. She pretty much joins Godzilla in the climax of the film, where they had to fight against both King Ghidorah and Rodan, which ends up in her sacrificing her life for Godzilla, making Godzilla become Thermo and defeating Ghidorah, and then finally becoming the king of the monsters. So I guess good on for Mothra. But we'll talk about the other titans that appeared at the end of the movie. The first one is Behemoth, which is one of my favorite titans in this movie in my opinion. Well, the titans that we see at the end in terms, but I still really like Behemoth, and it's one of the fan favorite designs, so it looks really cool. Then we have Scylla, and I know most people think it would have been like a Kumonga-like creature. Well, when they first saw this, they thought, oh, it's Kumonga. Kumonga's making an appearance. But no, this is a new titan known as Scylla. Not Zilla, Scylla. And I do feel like he's fine. He just appears at the end of the film. But also the Muto as well appears. The Mutos from 2014 make a return. This time, this Muto here that just joined the party. So that's really cool as well that the Muto still returns in Godzilla King of the Monsters. But anyway, all these monsters, they don't stand a chance against Godzilla, who is now the King of the Monsters. How many times do I have to say that? Anyway, let's move on to the best parts of the film. Godzilla King of the Monsters is a huge action-packed movie full of amazing scenes and amazing visuals. In my opinion, all the final battles are definitely much improved from Godzilla 2014. All these battles includes the Boston battle that we see at the end of the movie, as well as the Arctic battle with Godzilla and King Ghidorah, and finally Godzilla's King of the Monsters moment at the end of the movie. And out of all the Godzilla movies, I actually feel like King of the Monsters is the most visually amazing looking movie out of every other Godzilla movie. Now that might be a bit controversial, but I still think that, to be honest, King of the Monsters has some amazing visuals in the movie, and amazing visuals out of any Godzilla movie. Also, I really like the monsters. I especially like the main three monsters, Rodan, Mothra, and King Ghidorah. I just thought they were epic in the film, and to see them finally back onto the big screen, this time in an American-made Godzilla movie, like, I can't say no to that. I really can't say no. I think that they were definitely the perfect choice in the movie, except for, you know, some made-up creatures that, you know, Legendary does. But there were some made-up creatures at the end of the film which were awesome. But still though, adding Mothra, Rodan, and King Ghidorah made the movie, I think, 5 times better as it is. And I also really like Godzilla in this movie. Godzilla this time around is more of a hero, especially more of a hero-like character compared to 2014. But still though, Godzilla's still the anti-hero. But this will be the final movie where we get to see Godzilla be more heroic compared to some of his other movies. I also really like the fight scenes between Godzilla and King Ghidorah. I think they're probably the best parts of the film as well. And now we're going to talk about the humans now, which I know they're not that great in the film, in this film, in my opinion. But one standout has to be the family dynamic between the Russells. You kind of feel bad for them because all the Russells lost their son in one of the scenes in the final ending of Godzilla 2014, which you do kind of feel bad for them, and, you know, gives them a bit more character in the movie. And I do feel like the family dynamic between all of them is one of the strongest points of the human character cast in the movie. But also, I feel like Charles Dance as, you know, Alan Jonah is the best part of the film as well. And also Ken Watanabe as Dr. Serizawa, one of the best characters in the Monsterverse, but, you know, quite sad that, you know, he had to, you know, go in this movie and doesn't return in future installments. But anyway, that's pretty much all the good about Godzilla King of the Monsters. There is quite a lot as well. I still think it's a visually amazing Godzilla movie. However, let's talk about the things that I didn't really like about the film. Now, there's not really a lot to talk about in terms of things that I didn't really that much enjoy for Godzilla King of the Monsters, because this was an entertaining and fun movie. However, one criticism I do think, and I think a lot of people do, is the human characters. I have said it a bit in this video, so I won't go off it too much, but some of the human characters, particularly the main people that work for Monarch, are really MCU-inspired characters. And that's just them making jokes and stuff that are pretty much not funny. And that's pretty much it. I kind of found the humor in this movie a bit dry. And some of the characters just didn't really, you know, fit, you know, for this tone of the film. Now, don't get me wrong. I do think there are some characters that were really good in this movie, such as Zhang Ziyi. But some of the other characters just weren't really that memorable and just had some dry humor. But that was pretty much it. And that's pretty much all I can really say about in terms of negatives, because a lot of the humans wasn't really that good in this movie. That's just in my opinion, but let's move on to the conclusion. I think out of all the directors in the Monsterverse, I do feel like Michael Dougherty definitely is a huge Godzilla fan. He said that he really loves the King of the Monsters, and he definitely treated the movie a lot more respectively to the original Monsters and also the Toho movies as well. Also, I do feel like this is definitely one of the most beautifully looking and beautifully shot Godzilla movies out of the bunch. But I do have some criticisms in terms of the directing, and that's I do feel like, especially in the fight scenes is that there is a bit of shaky cam, which is something that many others have also complained about. But anyway, that's all for Godzilla King of the Monsters, and in my opinion, probably one of the best Godzilla movies in the Monsterverse, and definitely a strong entry. While it's not a perfect Godzilla movie, I still really enjoy Godzilla King of the Monsters, and I watch it from time to time, especially when it's on TV. One thing I don't get is why lots of people, and especially critics, really hated this movie. Like, when it first came out, it already had hot water in terms of box office, and with the critics. The critics absolutely despise this movie, and also some other Godzilla fans to this day really don't like Godzilla King of the Monsters, which I do not know why. Like, I mean, this is technically a Toho Godzilla movie, this time in America, and I don't get why lots of people hate this movie. I mean, Rodan, Mothra, and King Ghidorah make a return. Why aren't you, excited about that? But anyways, I still feel like I really enjoy Godzilla King of the Monsters, one of the best in the Monsterverse, and for that, I give it a 9 out of 10. I think this is a movie I definitely would recommend to anyone who's a fan of Godzilla and wants to get into Godzilla as well. I do feel like this is definitely one of the best, and you'll enjoy it and have so much fun with. Well, that is until the Beast of the East face against the Beast of the West. That's right. I'll see you next time for Godzilla vs. Kong. See you then.